Before we get started, I would like to say, if you didn't know it already, that this podcast is now available on YouTube. For a long time, we weren't on YouTube, and now we are. I am. There's no we. There's literally no team here. This is a small operation. So we're on YouTube, and you can find all of the episodes there except for one, an episode that was flagged because supposedly I provided medical disinformation, when in fact it was a joke about...
Censored because of those dicks at YouTube.
This had nothing to do with really medicine, necessarily. So, whatever. I appealed it. They didn't care. And we're on YouTube aside for that one episode. So, look at us. Look at me. Sorry, look at me. Again, I don't know the we and us stuff. There's really nobody here. It'd be nice to have a staff. Sadly, we don't. I don't. Jesus. Welcome to episode 19 of Grant Random Reports the News. On this episode, you're going to hear about a dildo attack. There's some genital news, too. What else? I don't know. Let's just get to it, shall we? Or shall I, for fuck's sake? Reporting from Brooklyn, I'm Grant Random, and this is the news. A woman in Fort Pierce, Florida, has been arrested for the second time in 2 years for a dildo attack. 35-year-old Chelsea White was arrested for domestic battery after there was a physical altercation with her boyfriend. They were apparently about to have dinner, and he went looking through her backpack and discovered his missing glass dildo. Again, there was a physical altercation. At one point, she went to grab the backpack and then threw the glass dildo at her boyfriend. It missed, thankfully. So I would imagine that would really hurt. Now, as I mentioned, this is not the first time this has happened. Back in late 2022, she was arrested after there was a verbal argument over a handbag and a sex toy. And I guess some violence occurred after that. She apparently kicked and bit the victim, who I'm assuming is the same guy here. And because he had asked White to return the sex toy to him because he owned it. They keep fighting over this goddamn dildo. At that point, she refused. And again, there was some violence that took place. White was ultimately found guilty and was charged with 12 months probation and was also required to complete a batterer's intervention program, which clearly fell short of its goals. Now, look, I would like to help this couple out because clearly they need it. And because I think there's a good chance it's otherwise a beautiful love story here. So what I would recommend is, and I think this is really the only answer, is that they look into his and hers dildos. They already have the his part of that taken care of, right? He's got his glass dildo. Now they just need a hers dildo to complete the equation. Now, if that's not in the cards because, let's say, finances are a little tight in the household, then I think it would make sense for them to work out some sort of a joint custody arrangement where White would get the dildo on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays, and then her boyfriend would get it on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Saturdays. On Sunday, the dildo will rest and ideally be thoroughly cleaned, as it will have been through a lot at that point. A woman in the UK who just celebrated her 105th birthday has revealed her secret to a long life, and that is drinking Guinness and not getting married. Kathleen Henning celebrated her birthday with friends and fellow residents at the home that she's staying at, and was even gifted a basket by Guinness that included pint glasses, an apron, chocolates, and plenty of cans of Guinness. Look, I'm not sure that her formula for longevity is for everybody, but I did find this whole lifestyle of being single and drinking especially rewarding when I was in my 20s, back when I was practicing alcoholism. Meanwhile, there's a 107-year-old woman in China who's gone viral on social media after a video has emerged of a 4-inch horn growing out of her forehead. The woman's name is Chen, and some people are calling this a devil horn or even a longevity horn, saying it's maybe behind her old age. But doctors are saying it's actually a cutaneous horn, which is often associated with prolonged sun exposure. Doctors say that these horns are quite rare, but can appear on the face, ears, hands, toes, and in some cases, the penis, making it quite literally a penis extender. but perhaps not quite as effective as a Ferrari. In other penis news, there is a story out of... where is this out of? I don't know where this was, but there was a 78-year-old man who passed away, and during a routine autopsy, it was discovered that he had an extremely rare condition known as trypophilia, which means he was born with 3 penises.
Are you serious?
There was one main penis and then 2 that were found in his scrotum. Now, here's my question. Is it really routine during an autopsy to go fishing around in a guy's scrotum? You know, unless the examiners believed that he had some sort of a genital-related situation that led to his death. That doesn't make sense to me. Or is it just something that some examiners do, maybe with some rogue medical examiners who just like to, check out the genitals, maybe take some photos and put them in a binder that they keep in their basement, which it seems highly inappropriate, and I'm sure that's the minority of the medical examiners, but it's got to be happening. Either way, the guy had these 2 extra penises that were in his scrotum. I guess the 2 extra penises did not have, one of them didn't have a urethra and wasn't functional. It says here that it was purely decorative, but I mean it wasn't, because it was hidden in his scrotum. I think the other one did share the urethra with the other one. I don't really know. This is confusing. It's likely, though, because of this man's unique genital configuration, that he had urinary tract infections and or erectile dysfunction, all while not seemingly being aware that he had the 2 extra penises, which is unfortunate because he would not have known what was causing him the issues, and he was missing out on the ability to brag to people that he had 3 dicks. It's tragic all the way around. The following segment is not a paid endorsement for the restaurant chain that is mentioned. It's simply a report about a restaurant adding an unusual item to its menu. Again, no payment was received for the following segment. If you don't believe me, fuck off. Taco Bell is a restaurant chain that is known for bucking convention, and they've done it again, as they've apparently said, fuck it, we're going to start selling chicken nuggets, despite the fact that they are a Mexican restaurant. Now, this isn't the first time they've done something unusual. They previously said, fuck it, we're going to stay open late for our stoned customers. At a later period in their history, they said, fuck it, we're going to deliver for our customers who are too stoned to leave their house. And then more recently, Taco Bell said, fuck it, we're going to start serving booze in our restaurants for the people whose edible buzz is starting to wear off and they're interested in getting a boozy buzz. Perhaps Taco Bell will say, you know what, fuck it, we should advertise on Grant Random Reports the News, who did us a solid by mentioning the whole chicken nugget thing despite the fact that we did not pay him. Yeah, I like the idea of that. So Taco Bell, if you're listening, this podcast is open to advertisers like yourself. And if not you, perhaps some of your competitors, like Flash Taco in Chicago, which does a delicious burrito. Or there's the Burrito Cart at 2nd and A here in New York City, also doing some fine work. If any burrito place is interested in advertising, please find me at Grant Random in your echo chamber of choice. Thank you. The preceding segment was not a paid endorsement for the restaurant chain that was mentioned. It was simply a report about a restaurant adding an unusual item to its menu. Again, no payment was received for the preceding segment. If you don't believe me, I ask that you stop being a dick about this.
Sports.
Former NBA star Lamar Odom has admitted to purchasing a custom sex doll that's been designed to look like his ex-wife, Khloe Kardashian. He admitted this on the We're Out of Time podcast and said that it was tied to his mental health journey. He said, a sex doll that looks like your wife, now let's be clear, ex-wife, is about mental health. Well, I would say it's actually about having an unhealthy obsession with your former spouse, and that's actually detrimental to your mental health. But what do I know? I'm just a guy doing a podcast that reports on people with 3 penises. So hey, Lamar, go nuts.
Sports.
Netflix has been hit with a $50 million class action lawsuit over streaming glitches during the Mike Tyson-Jake Paul fight. This suit was filed in Florida, and it alleges that Netflix was guilty of breach of contract over the frequent glitches. So I don't know what's going to happen with this, but I will say this. I think it's heartwarming that in an era of great division amongst us, that those of us who watched the fight can all agree that it sucked, that Netflix shit the bed, and that it was a wonderful surprise to see Mike Tyson's ass.
This is Intermission.
from the Citizen app, which, if you're not familiar, it's a police scanner app, sort of. It allows you to basically see what's going on in your neighborhood, in your town, your city, your village, if you live in one. And so I check it regularly. And according to the Citizen app, recently, this was yesterday, somebody was apparently in Midtown Manhattan slapping people. A face slapper was running around. And I know seemingly face slapping has become a lot more popular. There's even a face slapping league. But of course, if you're just walking down the street and you're headed to a Starbucks, you're probably not looking to be slapped. This individual has taken his love of slapping and applied it incorrectly. There needs to be a face slapping app, a slap app, if you will, for people who would like to get together and slap each other. Not in a sexual way. That's something different. Just some good old-fashioned face slapping to pass the time. If you're interested in slapping other people, consensually, let me know. And if there's enough people, maybe I'll spin up an app, some sort of a slap app, and we'll see how it goes. Slap the fuck out of each other. Also, from the Citizen app, there was a report out of Midtown Manhattan of a man who was causing a disturbance at a retail establishment as he was sniffing mannequins. Now, unfortunately, I don't really have a lot more detail to this because I think he got away with it. This perpetrator, the mannequin sniffer, is on the loose. But it had me wondering, wait a second, am I missing out on something? I'm just curious. I'd like to ask this guy if we could track him down. Was this the first time you've sniffed a mannequin, or have you been doing this for years? What attracted you to sniffing mannequins? Is there a difference between the mannequins of today and, let's just say, the mannequins of yesteryear that some of us sniffed, perhaps at a JCPenney's in Kankakee, Illinois back in 1982, for example? I'm just wondering, do they come scented, maybe in the appropriate spots on the mannequin, where, you smell a certain part and it smells like the part would in real life? And of course, you'd have some variation too. You could customize it because there are a lot of different smells with different people. If you're a mannequin sniffer, could you please shed some light on this? I tried to look for some online communities, some support groups, and just seemingly wasn't available to me. It's a very secretive and elusive group of people, these mannequin sniffers. And I'm asking you, for the purposes of educating the listeners of this podcast, come out of the darkness and into the light and share with us, those who are sniff curious. Tell us what we need to know, please. Again, reach out to me at Grant Random. And if you are, in fact, the mannequin sniffer of Midtown Manhattan, perhaps we could have you in the studio, provided, you don't do any weird shit. There are no mannequins to sniff. At least not yet, anyway. In UFO/UAP news, I don't know which acronym you prefer. I don't know if you've even given it any thought. Listen, take some time, ponder it, and get back to me with your conclusion. Thank you. So there's a guy who used to work at the Pentagon in a program that was related to UFOs, and he has claimed in the past that we have pieces of extraterrestrial aircraft and actually have biological specimens. And so he's like a noted expert in this field. He's written at least one book. And so he was recently speaking at some sort of a paid event. People paid to listen to this guy talk. And he was showing, I guess, some photos. And he showed a photo of apparently what was a UFO, a giant mothership that was in the sky above Romania back in 2022. He said the photo was taken at the U.S. Embassy. It was clearly taken from the inside of a tall building there. But of course, people studied the photo after the fact, and they realized, wait a second, that's not a UFO. That's a chandelier on the inside of the building, like in the room where the person was taking the photo. You had people that were at this event thinking, wait a second, I've seen that UFO at Grandma's house. So it was a fake, but to his credit, the guy later admitted that he was given a bad photo, and hopefully everyone was given their money back. I don't think that was the case. They were hoodwinked. Son of a bitch. Meanwhile, there's a guy in Canada who says that he witnessed King Charles pilot a UFO across the skies of Nova Scotia in Canada in 1975. The man's name is Dan Costello. He's a Canadian diver, and he's featured in a new documentary that explores the British royal family's ties with aliens. He said that he saw the then Prince of Wales inside a prototype craft that he said discharged a bluish ionic flame that scorched the earth underneath it, although it also turned soil into grass. Apparently. All right, that doesn't make any sense. He also said that the craft had dual rotor blades like a helicopter, but it would also just sit and hover in the sky with the blades not on and no sound of propulsion, just a faint crackle of electromagnetism. All right, if it's a UFO, it's definitely not going to have blades because space. Now, the dude said that this was part of a secret mission known as Project Serpico. Now, there's a book about, or maybe several books about Project Serpico, which discuss this being a top secret human exchange program that the government engaged in, supposedly, with a planet that was 39 light years away. We basically sent a bunch of humans there for 13 years, and then they came back. In exchange, I guess we got some aliens running around and some prototype craft to fuck around with. I guess my question is, was the then Prince Charles the only royal dude to get to participate in this? Because, I mean, there's a lot of royalty across the planet. What about the rest of them? You know, did they get to, there's a King Frederick in Denmark. What about that guy? Like, if I'm a royal person and I heard that one of the royal people got to fly a UFO and I didn't, I'd be pissed. And I would reach out to my alien representative and just say, like, what the fuck is this? Why that asshole and not me? Like, I don't get it. Hey there, it's King Frederick from Denmark. Are you kidding me? I heard about that dick Chuck getting to fly a UFO back in the day. And I'm wondering, like, what happened with me? Like, why is it that I'm always coming in second to Chuck? We're submitting human samples for experimentation just like they are. And so I think it's only fair that I get to fly one of your ships. And frankly, I'm kind of getting a little tired of having to beg for this shit. Wait, fuck me? No, fuck you. Perhaps a lot of tough conversations are being had as a result of this news breaking. The documentary is out now. I'm sorry, what is the name of it? I'm trying to pull it up. I'm looking at this information in real time. Maybe that's not a good idea, considering that this is a podcast I should have been prepared for. But please stand by. Okay, the documentary is called The King of UFOs. Again, this is a documentary that explores the ties between the British family and aliens that supposedly exist. Now, there's no word whether or not the documentary dives into a theory that has been put forward previously on this podcast that there's a member of the royal family who married a shape-shifting insectoid extraterrestrial. This was a theory that I recklessly put out there and did so with joy. Now, I should also point out that the shape-shifting insectoid extraterrestrial is not to be confused with the 3,000-year-old time-traveling, identity-stealing vampire alien who supposedly owns one of the social media apps. A guy who owns a social media app, you may have heard of him. But we'll keep his name off because he's got some political stuff going on. And this is a non-political podcast. But he claimed in a late-night post, possibly while he was on psychedelics, that he's a 3,000-year-old time-traveling, identity-stealing vampire alien. I mean, there's a lot to unpack there, and I don't think that there's really enough time on this episode to get into it. But you may be wondering, well, how does a being become 3,000 years old? And I think it's very clear. you stay single, and you drink a shit ton of Guinness. It's Thanksgiving week here in the United States, and I would like to say thank you, as always, for listening to this podcast. It really means a lot, and I also appreciate if you've subscribed on the podcast app that you're listening on, including but not limited to Spotify, Apple, Amazon Music, and YouTube/YouTube Music. Also, leave reviews if you can. Give me 5 stars if you would be so kind. I would greatly appreciate that. And I should point out that I have recently become active on Discord. I had a Discord previously, and I put a link out there, but the link expired because I didn't know what the hell I was doing. The link is now active, and you can access it at grantrandom.com. That basically takes you to my link tree, and then you scroll down, and you can click on Discord, and there's the link. You can go to my Discord, and there are 3 channels, one of which is podcast, and you can discuss the podcast there. If you have thoughts on stuff that was mentioned, if you have recommendations, stories you'd like to share to be included on a future episode, all of that, do it on the Discord. And with that, I would like to say thank you again for listening to the podcast of choice of 3,000-year-old shape-shifting, time-traveling, identity-stealing, vampire aliens who've been in at least one dildo fight. This has been a production of Idiocy.